These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackey and Judd on Score North and ScoreNorth.com.
We want to get people to third down and see if we can activate a rush and tie the coverage into it, whether we're sending pressure or not. It's a matter of wanting to get to those downs, and I thought we could have done a better job the last time we played them of doing that. But it's with how they run the ball and Daniel being a factor in the run game, they can be a real challenge to defend, and they do a great job with the scheme. Mike calling it, and obviously Dave's running the whole show. So it's going to be a challenge for our defense. They've got to show up, and the expectation is they'll play well.
The expectation is they'll play well.
The expectation is we're going to lay a big fat egg, just like we did against the Cowboys and Packers.
And if they don't meet that expectation, can I pull the curtain back on Mackey and Judd here for a second?
Yeah.
Our executive producer, Declan, has done a great job of pulling the reins back on Judd and me because we love to talk off season. We love to speculate. We love the lead up to like March and the draft. But the Vikings are heading into the playoffs, so we don't want to look too far ahead because, hey, one game at a time, right? Got to keep that focus. I just want you guys to know, old Macadac spent a couple hours deep diving into 7 defensive coordinator replacements if and when Ed Donatel gets fired. Multiple with close ties to Kevin O'Connell. So I'm not going to do that list. We rank things every Tuesday. It's a different list today. It's Judd's list today. But the minute that this defense lays an egg in the playoffs, if that happens, I've got you guys covered with 7 defensive coordinator replacement ideas.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's all about having the bullets in the chamber, right? Gotta have your bullets in the chamber.
They're about to play off.
Declan has been telling us don't do that stuff yet, you guys. We're celebrating a playoff run here.
Yep.
Don't be speculating on people getting fired yet.
There is a primary weapon, and the rocket launcher is not the primary method you should be using right now for anyone who plays Call of Duty or Halo. Like, you do not bust out the rocket launcher in this map. This is not the time to use the rocket launcher yet.
But the second the season's done, bang, the rocket launcher
boom,
goes.
If Donatello gives up 38 points to the Giants in a home playoff loss, then we're going to do an emergency episode with this exact list the second that happens. But so before the season, I think it was old Macadac that ranked the 10 best Vikings players, or maybe it was like the 20 best Vikings players or something.
Yep.
And we had a big debate, and there was some controversy. Now it's time for Judd on Pecking Order Tuesday here to rank the current 10 best available Vikings players heading into the playoffs. Available being the key word, because Brian O'Neill is not available.
Correct.
Okay.
Garrett Bradbury, I'm assuming until proven otherwise, is not as well.
Okay.
So I'm going with guys that, as far as I know, are going to play on Sunday against the New York Football Giants, a.k.a. Big Blue. Not to be confused with the Jets, who are gangrene. All right?
Okay.
I'll start at 10 and work my way up. At number 10, defensive tackle in the real world, but in the 3-4 scheme run by the great Donatello. He's a defensive end. Dalvin Tomlinson. 28 years old, 16th out of 126 interior defensive linemen per PFF. Not a star player by any means, but I think he's solid. Dalvin Tomlinson is number 10.
Just kind of a rock solid, nondescript in a good way. Just a good solid player to have in the trenches for your defense.
Did you see the clip?
As you lay these out. Vikings have good defensive players.
That Harrison Phillips yesterday in the locker room was basically talking about there's this new playoff Dalvin, and he was talking about Dalvin Tomlinson, not Dalvin Cook, that we're going to see on Sunday against the Giants. Playoff Dalvin.
Let's get it. Let's get it.
Speaking of, it will be interesting to see if Dalvin Cook makes this list. I will continue to go down to number 9. Darius Smith, at the age of 30, is number 9. He got off to a fantastic start. Keep in mind, about 8 weeks in, we were talking about this guy as the potential DPOY in the National Football League. He was tied, I think, at his zenith for the league lead in sacks. Hurt his knee, dropped significantly. 33. I don't know if he's going to be back in 2023, but he is a guy who definitely at least for a period of time, stepped in and did a fantastic job. When he was playing well too, what I sort of liked about him was he was sort of the character / heartbeat of the defense as well, because he's a gregarious dude. So I think he brought a lot to the room. But Darius Smith would definitely be higher than 9 going into the playoffs if he had completed the season that he started. He really didn't. Hopefully the game off against the Bears will help his cause, but he is number 9 on this list. And there's no question, if the Vikings are going to make a playoff run, he needs to at least sort of get back to replicating what we saw in the first portion of the season. Darius Smith.
Gregarious Zadarius.
He was gregarious.
He's back on track.
But I mean, you could tell he dropped
Zadarius is gregarious. And the Vikings lead 10-7.
I sort of like that. Thoughts?
I think this is for a snapshot right now. This is fair. He was great the first half of the season, like you said. He has 1 sack in the last 2 months.
Yeah,
and maybe resting in week 18 will just kind of building in that extra bye week for a guy like him.
Yep,
maybe that helps. But like if he's playing at the level that he was, then 9 is way too low. But this might even be. He has not been good really at all the last few weeks.
I know, that's why I was very.
You're giving him credit for what he could still be.
Yes.
So, yeah.
And this list too, it delves into the world of, I think, guys in the playoffs who are going to have to be good. So like, Darius Smith might not be the same player that he was in the first 8 games, but he's got to be close. Like he can't be, if the Vikings are actually going to make a playoff run to, dare I say it, before we die, a Super Bowl and win said Super Bowl, Darius Smith has to be a factor.
Yes. Yeah,
This is importance too.
Your passing game has to be on point, and then your defense altering the opposing team's passing game has to be on point, and he's one of the 2 or 3 most important factors in that.
Number 8, another guy who is not what he once was, is still incredibly important and got the game off against the Bears and is going to need to be very good. At the age of 33, come on down, Harrison Smith. Now, Hitman was ranked 34th out of 89 eligible safeties. So, like, he definitely is not what he was. But I think he could still be effective. He had, a handful or just below a handful of picks on the season. Definitely made some big plays. And he controls that defense from the back end. Harrison Smith is 8 because his importance goes beyond grades and statistics. He brings to you a credibility and sort of a captain presence that is absolutely imperative. So Harrison Smith.
Yep. He also adds to the collective pile of Harrisons, Dalvins, and Smiths on the Vikings roster.
You're exactly right.
Yeah, he's still, I think, don't confuse not as good as he was a couple years ago with not good anymore, right?
Correct.
Not that you are. But naturally, he's not as good as he was when he was 26 or 28 years old. But he's still very good. And him getting an extra sort of built-in bye week in week 18 is going to help him probably be a little fresher for this playoff stretch. And don't you think a guy like there's like 5 or 6 dudes on this team, a lot of them on defense, by the way, that would love. They can see the end of their career, and they would love to do a little extra something special, a little extra prep work here, knowing that they might not have a chance quite like this again, right?
I like where
Harry seems like that type of dude. About 4 hours of extra film study, boom, breaks up a play in the backfield, picks off a pass or something.
Feel like we're getting dangerously close to basically singing the lyrics of "I'm Not as Good as I Once Was" by Toby Keith with a lot of these players, because that's what it sounds a lot like we're doing.
As good once as I ever was.
Yeah.
Oh wow! I didn't see
big
that
Toby
coming.
Keith fan?
No, I'm not. But then, you know what? That sounds fantastic.
Not as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was. That's all we need for 1 month.
That's all you need.
From
One.
some of these
Exactly.
guys. Yep.
Yay.
4 games. All right, number 7 on the list. This is the shocker, and it might be low. Duke Shelley.
Yes.
At the age of 26, he is right now out of qualified quarterbacks.
Above the Hitman.
He's 7th out of 122. How do you explain it?
And he's third in coverage. Yeah.
I don't know if it's lightning in a bottle, if this is an unlocked Duke of Shelley. I will say this, because I did some work last night as I put together this list to see his background a little bit. He definitely, so before the Bears drafted him in the 6th round, and parked him at the nickel corner. He had been an outside guy, and I think was pretty open about saying, I'm more comfortable outside, not inside. And the nickel, I'll go back to this, is a special position. It's not a cornerback position. Duke Shelley, perhaps the Vikings just said, okay, dude, let's see what you can do on the outside playing corner.
Yeah.
Guys got hurt. He's been fantastic. But yes, I think it's very fair, and it might be slightly low to put him 7th on this list right now.
As a few people, because we had that conversation about how like he's really undersized to be an outside cornerback, but Antoine Winfield played a lot of outside cornerback in his career, right? He played some in the slot, but mostly outside cornerback.
Yep.
At 5'9", he wasn't a lockdown cover guy. He was a good cover guy and an elite tackler and run stopper.
Yep.
But I think the question here is, are we just witnessing this crazy 6-week stretch from Duke Shelley, or did they find a top-end starter here just off the scrap heap? It would seem
Ring of Honor
that they did, but
Ring of Honor. I'll probably be dead, but Duke Shelley, Ring of Honor, baby.
he's among the league leaders in pass breakups, having played like a third of the snaps of the guys that he's tied with. So
yeah,
incredible, dude. Oh, whoa.
What do you got?
Sorry, we have breaking Twins news.
Did they get him?
The Twins got Correa.
Oh my God, they did.
Oh man.
You're
okay,
kidding.
hey, on-air production meeting real quick. Dex, can you reach out to Randy in Cottage Grove and tell him that we need to talk to him later this week, because once we're done with Judd's pecking order, we'll have to jump on and do a little Twins Correa. It's 6 years, $200 million. Old Macadac was Royce. He clowned me. I said it'll be a short-term contract. It is. Anyways, let's finish your pecking order and then
I'm shaking
talk
now.
some Correa.
I'm shaking. All right, number 6 on my list. Another acquisition that came late, in fact, in season, tight end TJ Hockenson. He is 16th out of 75 tight ends, according to PFF. He's 25. And again, I will say this. I think the Vikings won some games because of his presence that they don't win if they don't make that trade. TJ Hockenson has become... Now, the question of how much he should be used exactly and in what role is probably a fair question, but there's no minimizing the importance of him. And so he is number 6 on my list.
Yeah. The Hawk, man. I'm really curious, going forward, is there another level? Is there some sort of tier 1 version of TJ Hockenson? Because sometimes he's kind of getting to the age where a lot of tight ends take 4 or 5 years and then they explode.
Yep.
And he's kind of getting into that point. He's still pretty young.
Yep.
Is there another level? And even if there's not, he's just a really good sort of B+ tight end that you're probably going to sign to a contract extension through his prime. So still love the acquisition.
All right, now we go to the top 5. Number 5 is a guy who has is long in the tooth, but has had a great year, Patrick Peterson.
Yeah.
Now he grades slightly behind the Duke of Shelley. He is 9th out of the 122 eligible quarterbacks per PFF. But that being said, he's played all year. He's been fantastic. He, again, is a culture guy, too. He's been absolutely key, not only on the field, but in the room as well. Patrick Peterson is 5 because he has brought, I think, a ton to this team. And I think he brought some of that last year, but I really sense that he's been more comfortable, and his impact overall has been huge this season.
Yeah. And I think they've gotten more out of him than I would have expected. He's been better. It's funny, you think, Mike Zimmer is going to be the one that gets the most out of Patrick Peterson, and he was good under Mike Zimmer, but who would have thought? Here's the weird thing, because you're listing, and you haven't even gotten to the top 4 yet, and I know there's at least another defensive player on here, if not 2. You got Patrick Peterson, Duke Shelley, you got Darius Smith. There's for sure another edge rusher where I'm sure we're going to get to. How are they 31st in yards? This collection of parts, even PFF is grading a lot. PFF says the individual performances are among the best. It's 4th if you just look at the individual performances. Yep. And that's kind of what PFF does. They aren't looking at the totality of the yards given up or the scheme. They're giving you grades, what players are being asked to do within the scheme. And the Vikings grade very, very highly defensively. Is that just a huge indictment? I mean, you got Patrick Peterson playing at a super high level. Duke Shelley, you can see it with your eyes. Darius Smith, Neil Hunter,
it's an indictment,
and they can't stop defenses. It's more scheme, right?
Yes, yeah. I think the scheme's a problem, and that's why. That's why when O'Connell insists that Donatel makes adjustments, I think it goes uptick for a game, but then they always come back to, but the system works.
Yeah.
All right, we are now to the top 4, and you are correct. The next guy is indeed edge rusher Danielle Hunter. He's 28. On Sunday against the Bears, he was just fantastic. Danielle Hunter, it's so weird because statistically, he comes away with a good year. He remains at times impressive to watch, but there have been games where you're like, where is he? Like, why is he not being used more? Why is he not being used more wisely? So Danielle Hunter, to be very clear, remains a very good player. I think if there is one or two guys who the scheme has directly affected adversely, he's atop that list. He remains a very good player. He's number 4 on the list.
Yeah, he is. It's very reassuring that he just played the games, right? The fact that he came back, and there's always going to be this what if. Too. Yeah, it was a good productive season. I think to your point, his productivity probably didn't show up as much in the sack totals, but his pressures were among the league leaders this season, and just moving quarterbacks off of spots can be effective. But there's always going to be this what if factor that this dude basically missed like almost 2 full years, smack dab in the prime of a career that started the first 5 years as one of the best 5 or 6 year runs sack wise to start a young career, right? Wasn't he like most sacks before age 25 or something of any player?
I think that's correct.
And now he was a surefire Hall of Fame trajectory. And now he's kind of just trying to work his way back into being one of the best edge rushers in the league. So, and we don't even know what his Vikings future holds. He has this weird contract now that probably needs to be redone again going into March. So we'll see.
Number 3 on the list. This was a little bit difficult to put him 3, but I think positionally it makes a little bit of sense. Left tackle Christian Darrisaw, who was absolutely outstanding. His 90.3 grade put him second out of 81 tackles. He's 23. He did miss time because of a concussion, but when he played, for the most part, outstanding. Christian Darrisaw should be, hopefully, knock on wood, essentially a 10-year answer at one of the positions. If you have a right-handed quarterback that you need to find an answer at, he's third.
And there's certain positions that you can't just. Some of the positions the Vikings are going to wind up aging out or just sort of phasing out. You can find those later in the draft or through free agency. You can find effective linebackers. You can find, you can find a guard if you need to. If you decide that like Ed Ingram's not the guy, you can find a center if Garrett Bradbury. I'm not saying easily because the Vikings have had troubles with some of these.
Yes.
You can't just find a left tackle in the 5th round or free agency if you don't have a ton of cap space. You need to nail one in the 1st round generally, and they did. So no matter what happens in the next month, off season, you got your franchise left tackle, you got your franchise wide receiver, you got some interesting pieces in your secondary that are young and effective. So some good pillars to have here, and Darrisaw is definitely on the Mount Rushmore of important pillars for the Vikings.
Number 2 on the list is the guy I considered putting 3, but because of his position, I put him second, Kirk Cousins. 34, absolutely a solid year, 8 fourth-quarter comeback wins. The architect in large ways in 11 one-score wins, a league record. Kirk Cousins delivered on a lot of things that I questioned, and I didn't go into the season necessarily thinking he could do, and thanks to him and O'Connell, he did. That's impressive. Going into the playoffs, I put Kirk Cousins second on this list.
Yeah, and that leaves the obvious number 1.
This is no fun, but it's
the guy who has emerged at the end of the season as one of the best wide receivers in the NFL, K.J. Osborne.
No, Thielen, of course. He's from here. That's what I heard. Justin Jefferson will just pay the man. He will get paid. You will still have 2 years left on his rookie contract, which is great. But Justin Jefferson, it's interesting, in the summertime, he told somebody that his goal by the end of the season was to be considered the best receiver in the league. At that point, he admitted Devontae Adams was better, but he said, my goal by the end is to be considered the best. And I think there's a very good argument to be made right now that he is the best. He has delivered on essentially everything. He has been fantastic. He's made catches he has no business making. He draws attention, which should continue to help them on Sunday against the Giants. There is no underselling what Justin Jefferson's impact means to this team and the offense, and so Justin Jefferson's number one.
So there it is, Judd's 10 best current available Vikings. Jefferson number 1, Cousins number 2, Darrisaw number 3, Danielle Hunter number 4, Patrick Peterson 5, TJ Hockenson 6, Duke Shelley 7. Duke Shelley 7?
Duke, I know. It
Duke
makes no
Shelley.
sense. That's what I love about sports.
Harry the Hitman 8, Zadarius the Gregarious at 9, and Dalvin Tomlinson is 10. I'm trying to think. This is pretty solid, man.
Dalvin got left off. I left Cook off. I
That's
just
fair.
don't see. I didn't see a path. I tried and I didn't see a path. He
I
did
think that's
not
fair.
have a great year.
Yeah. I might actually make a case for special teams ace Josh Metellus, who's blocked a couple punts, but
Was a
this
captain
is
on
pretty
Sunday.
solid. He was a captain.
Got
Teammates
promoted to a
respect him like
captain.
him. Declan might stump for Greg Joseph to be in here at 10th.
He's on another list of mine. It's the cause for concern list.
If you have cause for concern inside your home, Finch Home Solutions is here to help you.
That's a great call because guess what? You know what? Home electronic repairs, they are not DIY. They are not. There's a lot of things that you guys can do, and I get that, and that's great. But, you know, if you've got, I don't know, flickering lights or need electronical work to get a kitchen enhancement, or let's say a hot tub, guess what? Finch Home Solutions has your problems covered. And the key here is don't wait until something goes wrong. It's too late then. That's scary. Be proactive and call Finch. They are actually right now offering a free home safety inspection to all of our listeners and viewers. And be sure to tell them that you heard about Finch on Score North. There are special deals available for you. Visit finchhomesolutions.com, or you can call them 612-357-2604, 612-357-2604, finchhomesolutions.com. Cody and his crew can solve all of those problems for you with electrical issues.
Boom. All right. Well, thanks for hanging out with us here on Mackey and Judd. We like to rank things, and we appreciate you coming along with us. Over on Purple Daily, we do a deep dive into why the Vikings can indeed win the Super Bowl in this next 5 or 6 weeks or so. So check that out. And I'm guessing we're going to hit you with an emergency Carlos Correa $200 million Twins contract episode here too. So we'll see you guys. Mackey and Judd.